The medical bay of the Federation starship Elysium hummed with its usual sterile efficiency. Holographic displays casting pale blue light across Dr. Vayler's navy blue skin. Her blonde hair was pulled back in the severe style typical of Xerian physicians, though a few rebellious strands had escaped during her 12-hour shift. She barely noticed. Her violet eyes were fixed on the scan results hovering before her, and what she saw made both her heart skip and synchronized panic. Captain Alara Kane lay on the examination table, her warm brown eyes watching Vayler's face with concern. "Doc, you're making that face again. The one where your skin goes darker at the temples." Ilara's hand rested protectively on her abdomen, which showed the gentlest curve beneath her uniform. 8 weeks pregnant, according to the calendar. But the holographic fetus rotating slowly in the display told a different story entirely. "This is impossible," Vayler whispered, her usually steady voice cracking. She expanded the image, her slender fingers trembling as they manipulated the controls. "The development markers indicate 12 weeks minimum. Perhaps 14. Captain, the growth rate is 43% faster than any model in the interspecies database." She turned to Alara, genuine fear flickering in her eyes. "I don't understand what's happening." Ilara sat up slowly, reaching out to catch Vayler's hand. The touch sent electricity through the Xerian doctor's body. It always did, ever since those forbidden late-night meetings had begun 3 months ago. They'd started innocently enough. Vayler couldn't sleep after a difficult surgery, and she'd found Ilara in the observation deck at 0300 hours reading Keats by starlight. The human captain had looked up, smiled that devastating smile, and asked if Xerians had poetry. One conversation had become 2, then 10. Then nightly rituals where they'd share Earth's romantic verses and Xerian star maps. Vayler had tried to maintain professional distance, but Ilara's warmth was like gravity, inescapable and fundamental. When Ilara had confessed her pregnancy 4 weeks ago, the result of one night when poetry had turned to passion, Vayler had promised to monitor the pregnancy personally. Now that promise felt like both blessing and curse. "Vayler," Ilara said softly, squeezing her hand. "Look at me, not the screen." The doctor obeyed and found herself drowning in those human eyes. "That's our baby in there. Half you, half me. Maybe it's growing faster because it's got your brilliant genetics and my stubborn human will. Maybe miracles don't follow your databases." "Science doesn't work that way," Vayler protested weakly, but she didn't pull her hand away. Her twin hearts were racing now, and not from medical concern. The warmth of Ilara's palm against hers, the trust in her eyes. The way she said, "our baby," as if it were the most natural thing in the universe, it all overwhelmed the cold logic Vayler had relied on for 32 years. "Maybe," Ilara whispered, pulling Vayler closer until their foreheads touched. "We need to start trusting something besides science. Trust this. Trust us." Vayler's private quarters were smaller than Ilara's captain's suite, but she preferred it that way less space meant less emptiness. Tonight, however, the walls felt suffocating as she paced across the brushed metal floor, her blonde hair now loose and cascading past her shoulders. Holographic medical journals floated around her like anxious ghosts, each one displaying conflicting data about hybrid pregnancies. None of them prepared her for this. It was 0200 hours. She should be sleeping, but sleep had become impossible since the scan 6 hours ago. The door chime interrupted her third review of Xerian-Terran genetic compatibility studies. She knew who it would be before she opened it. Ilara stood in the corridor, wearing civilian clothes, instead of her uniform soft gray pants and a loose white shirt that somehow made her look both vulnerable and impossibly beautiful. "You didn't come to dinner," Ilara said simply, "or respond to my messages." I got worried. She stepped inside without waiting for invitation, the door hissing shut behind her. The quarters suddenly felt even smaller, charged with the electricity that always sparked between them. I was researching, Vela replied, gesturing helplessly at the floating displays. There are 37 documented cases of Xerian human conception, 37 in the entire Federation database. Only 12 resulted in successful births, and not one showed this accelerated growth pattern. Alara, I don't have a precedent. I don't have a protocol. I don't know how to keep you safe. Her voice broke on the last word. And suddenly Alara was there, hands cupping Valer's face, thumbs stroking the high cheekbones that darkened to deep indigo when she was distressed. Hey, look at me. You've kept me safe through 3 combat situations, a diplomatic crisis, and that time I got space sick from Andorian cuisine. You're not going to fail me now. This is different, Vela breathed, but she was leaning into the touch despite herself. Your body is doing something unprecedented. Our child is growing in ways I can't predict or control. What if my genetics are incompatible in ways we haven't discovered? What if the accelerated growth causes complications? What if I lose you both because I was arrogant enough to think love could overcome biology? Ilara's expression softened. She took Valer's hand and placed it on her abdomen, holding it there firmly. Feel that? There was the faintest flutter, impossibly early for human pregnancy standards, but unmistakable. That's our baby, Valer. Growing strong and fast because it's got the best of both worlds. You're not arrogant, you're terrified. And that's okay. I'm terrified too. You don't look terrified, Valer whispered, mesmerized by the movement beneath her palm. Because I have you, Ilara said simply. She guided Valer to the narrow bed, pulling her down to sit together. Every species in this Federation brings something unique. Humans bring adaptability and resilience. Xerians bring intelligence and precision. Our baby is going to have all of that. Maybe it's growing faster because it's meant to be extraordinary. Valer let herself be pulled into Ilara's arms, her head resting against the human shoulder. I've spent my entire career trusting data. Numbers don't lie. Equations don't fail. But nothing in my equations prepared me for you. For this, she placed her hand over Ilara's heart, feeling its steady rhythm. For how terrifying it is to love someone this much. Then maybe, Ilara murmured, pressing a kiss to Valer's temple. It's time to trust something your equations can't measure. The medical bay was empty except for the 2 of them Valer had scheduled the appointment during Gamma shift when her colleagues would be occupied elsewhere. Some examinations, she decided, required privacy. Ilara lay on the specialized medical bed designed to accommodate various species' physiologies, her shirt pulled up to reveal her growing belly. At 12 weeks by calendar, 16 by development, the curve was now unmistakable. Valer ran the scanner slowly across Ilara's abdomen, her professional mask firmly in place even as her hearts raced. The holographic display materialized above them, and both women caught their breath simultaneously. The fetus was perfectly formed, features already distinct in ways that shouldn't be possible. Tiny fingers flexed. A small foot kicked gently against the uterine wall. By the stars, Valer breathed, her composure cracking. Look at the bone density. The neural development. Ilara, this is. Our child is. She couldn't find words adequate for the miracle rotating before them in translucent blue light. Beautiful? Ilara suggested softly, reaching up to take Valer's free hand. Perfect? Ours? All of those. Valer set the scanner aside and moved closer, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears, a rare display for any Xerian. The genetic integration is flawless. Your adaptive DNA is complementing my structured genetics in ways that shouldn't work but do. It's as if your body and mind found a language that transcends our individual biologies. Ilara tugged gently on Valer's hand, pulling her down to sit on the edge of the bed. Come here. Stop being a doctor for 5 minutes. Be the woman I love. When Vaylor hesitated, Alara added, please. Vaylor yielded, letting herself be drawn into Alara's embrace. The human's warmth was intoxicating, her scent something like vanilla and starlight overwhelming Vaylor's carefully maintained professional distance. Alara's fingers traced the distinctive markings on Vaylor's neck, the bioluminescent patterns that glowed faintly when Xerians experienced strong emotions. They were glowing now, pulsing softly in rhythm with her twin heartbeats. You're radiant when you let yourself feel, Alara whispered, following the glowing patterns with gentle kisses. I love seeing you like this. Not Dr. Vaylor, Chief Medical Officer. Just Vaylor. The woman who quotes poetry at midnight and cries during stellar nebula formations. That was once, Vaylor protested weakly, tilting her head to give Alara better access to the sensitive markings. And the Horsehead Nebula is objectively beautiful. So are you? Alara's hand slipped into Vaylor's blonde hair, pulling her into a deep kiss. The Xerian physician made a small sound of surrender, her carefully constructed walls crumbling completely. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Alara guided Vaylor's hand back to her belly. Feel that? Our baby knows when you're close. The kicks get stronger. Vaylor spread her fingers across Alara's warm skin, marveling at the life beneath. Increased fetal activity in response to familiar voices and touch. It's recognizing. You, and possibly ... me? The possibility filled her with wonder. I need to run more scans. Map the neural pathways. Understand how Vaylor. Alara's voice was firm but loving. You need to stop analyzing and start believing. This isn't just science. It's us. Our love made real. She pulled Vaylor fully onto the bed beside her, cradling the Xerian doctor against her side. Stay with me. Just like this. No scans. No data. Just feel. For the first time in her career, Vaylor chose emotion over evidence, wrapping her arms around Alara and their growing child, letting herself trust in something her instruments couldn't measure. The emergency call came during Vaylor's off-shift meditation. She materialized in the medical bay within 2 minutes, her blonde hair still damp from the sonic shower, to find Alara doubled over on the examination table. 3 weeks had passed since their intimate appointment, 3 weeks during SIR, which the pregnancy had advanced with increasingly alarming speed. By calendar, Alara was 15 weeks pregnant. By development, the fetus measured at 24 weeks. Now something was clearly wrong. Contractions, Alara gasped, her face pale. Started 20 minutes ago. Every 5 minutes now. Vaylor, it's too early. Even by the accelerated timeline, it's too early. Fear sharpened her voice the first time. Vaylor had heard genuine terror from the usually unshakable captain. Vaylor's training kicked in instantly, her hands flying across the holographic controls with practiced precision. I'm scanning now. Try to breathe through it. Focus on my voice. She kept her tone professionally calm even as panic clawed at her throat. The scan results appeared and her heart nearly stopped. The baby's in distress. Heart rate elevated. Amniotic fluid levels dropping. Your blood pressure is dangerously high. What's happening? Alara reached for Vaylor's hand, gripping it with desperate strength. Please, tell me what's happening to our baby. The accelerated growth is demanding more resources than your body can provide, Vaylor explained, her medical mask slipping to reveal raw fear. The placental attachment is weakening. If we don't stabilize you both. She couldn't finish the sentence. Loss wasn't acceptable. Not now. Not them. Another contraction hit, and Alara cried out, her back arching. Vaylor immediately administered a Xerian analgesic formulated for human physiology, one of dozens of hybrid medications she developed over the past weeks. This will help with pain, but I need to stop the contractions. I'm going to try a cellular regeneration field focused on the placental tissue. It's experimental, but do it, Ilara interrupted through gritted teeth. I trust you. I've always trusted you. Vaylor activated the field, watching the holographic display with intensity that made her head ache. Slowly, painfully slowly, the readings began to stabilize. The contractions lessened in frequency. The baby's heart rate normalized. But Ilara's blood pressure remained critically elevated, and the amniotic fluid wasn't replenishing fast enough. I'm going to have to augment your system directly, Vaylor said quietly, preparing a vascular interface. Xerian biotechnology can supplement your body's resources, but it means connecting our circulatory systems temporarily. It's intimate, and it's risky for me too. If your body rejects the interface, then we risk it together, Ilara said firmly, extending her arm. Because that's what we do. That's what love means. Vaylor positioned the interface carefully, pressing one end against Ilara's radial artery and the other against her own. The connection activated with a soft hum, and suddenly she could feel everything: Ilara's pain, her fear, her fierce protective love for their child, the exhaustion in her cells. It was overwhelming and intimate in ways physical touch could never achieve. Tears streamed down Vaylor's navy blue cheeks as she felt their hearts beating in synchronized rhythm, felt the baby's presence like a bright spark between them. I feel you, Ilara whispered, her eyes wide with wonder despite the pain. Both of you. Vaylor, your hearts. They're beautiful. And yours, Vaylor replied, her voice thick with emotion. So strong. So warm. You're going to be okay. You both are. I won't allow any other outcome. She monitored the readings obsessively as her enhanced blood flowed into Ilara's system, carrying oxygen and nutrients the human body desperately needed. Slowly, agonizingly, the crisis began to pass. When it was finally over, neither moved to disconnect. They sat connected, blood flowing between them. Their child safe and peaceful in the space they created together through sheer will and love. 6 weeks later, Vaylor stood in the observation deck where this had all begun, watching stars streak past at warp speed. Behind her, the door hissed open, and she smiled without turning. She knew Ilara's footsteps, her breathing, the way she disturbed the air simply by existing. Love had made Vaylor fluent in languages that required no words. She's asleep, Ilara said softly, moving to stand beside Vaylor. Between them, cradled in a specialized carrier, was the miracle that had defied every prediction, their daughter. Lyra, born at what should have been 28 weeks but fully developed, perfectly healthy, with her mother's warm brown eyes and her Xerian parents' navy blue skin. Blonde hair crowned her tiny head in soft wisps. She was 3 weeks old and already smiling at Vaylor's bioluminescent patterns. I still run the calculations sometimes, Vaylor admitted, resting her head on Ilara's shoulder, trying to understand how this was possible, how she's possible. The data still doesn't make sense. Good, Ilara replied, wrapping her arm around Vaylor's waist. If it made sense, she wouldn't be a miracle. She'd just be predictable. She pressed a kiss to Vaylor's temple. Remember what you told me during the crisis? When we were connected and you could feel everything? Vaylor remembered. She'd been overwhelmed by the intimacy, her carefully controlled emotions flooding through the vascular interface into Ilara's consciousness. I said I loved you both more than logic, more than data, more than the cold certainty of mathematics. You also said, Ilara continued gently, that for the first time in your life, being wrong felt perfectly right. Vaylor turned to face her, cupping Alara's face with both hands. Her bioluminescent markings glowed softly in the starlight. My predictions were wrong about everything. The growth rate, the risks, my ability to remain professionally distant. But this is Lyra? She glanced down at their sleeping daughter. This is perfectly right. Lyra stirred, making a small sound, and both mothers immediately focused on her. Tiny hands reached upward, grabbing at nothing. Vaylor offered her finger, and the baby gripped it with surprising strength, human determination combined with Xerian precision. She opened her eyes, looked directly at Vaylor, and gave a gummy smile. She has your intelligence, Ilara whispered. I can see it in her eyes. The way she studies everything. And your warmth, Vaylor countered. She radiates it. Pure joy. Pure love. She looked up at Ilara, her violet eyes shimmering. You were right that first night. Miracles don't follow databases. They follow hearts. And mine, both of them, belong entirely to you. Ilara pulled her into a kiss, careful not to jostle Lyra between them. When they parted, she was smiling that devastating smile that had started everything. I love you, Dr. Vaylor, my brilliant, emotional, perfectly imperfect partner. And I love you, Captain Kane, my warm, stubborn, magnificently human wife. They'd married quietly 2 weeks ago with Lyra as their witness. A small ceremony that broke at least a dozen Federation regulations about fraternization and chain of command. Neither cared. Below them, Lyra cooed softly, perfectly content in the space between her mothers, growing at her own unprecedented pace, following her own rules. Outside, stars wheeled in patterns Vaylor had studied for years, but only now truly understood. Science could map the cosmos, but love unpredictable, impossible. Perfect love was what made it meaningful. It's growing faster than predicted, Vaylor murmured, echoing her words from that first terrifying scan. And my heart is too. Ilara smiled, pulling her family closer. Good, let it grow. We've got a whole galaxy to love and a lifetime of miracles ahead. In the observation deck, surrounded by starlight and possibility, they stood together, 3 hearts beating in perfect, unprecedented harmony. The end.